everybody. How are we doing today?
Oh, Cleveland.
Hello, Cleveland. I never get tired of saying that. This is like the epitome. I think we may have to switch on.
Hello, hello.
There we go.
I'm sure they never get tired of that joke here.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Big shout out to Cleveland Public Library, and of course, yes, libraries in general, because
Oh my God.
yeah, the service.
You guys
they
have the
provide
best library
and
in the world.
the best.
This place is unbelievable.
Do you see that Superman exhibit upstairs? Come on. How great is that?
We had like 90 minutes, and I was like, we got plenty of time, and then Frank looked at me and was like, we got to be out here in 5 minutes. Like, lost track of time. Phillip, we're so excited to be here.
Man, me too.
Talking to you. How many people have seen the movie so far? All right. So no spoilers, but we got to watch it with Phillip last night. What was your take on the new take?
I mean, it was really refreshing to see a new take on Superman that was not the one I grew up with and remained devoted to, but that I can still get 100% behind. You know, like it's still just a beautiful, beautiful take on the character and on that whole world. And also that movie gets a lot more done than just establish Superman, right? It establishes the DC universe again, kind of.
Yeah.
It just kind of sets us up in a world where there are superheroes. There's no apology for it. It's just like, this is what the world looks like now. It's just beautifully done.
Yeah.
I thought that, I grew up with the Christopher Reeve movie. The Christopher Reeve movie came out the year I was born, and I saw that at a super formative age and right when I needed it the most. And that will always be my version of Superman that like lives in my head. But this take, although it is super different, it's so good, and just you walk out feeling like $1 million, as you should, and it was very well done.
The joy is overflowing. Seen it several times this week already, and every time I feel like it gets a little bit better. Having written for this character, you and I have that in common. Have had the privilege to write for a character that we both are very protective of and care so much about. How does that translate for you, getting to watch your childhood hero on the big screen for a new generation? You got to take your son last night. That was incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I've been waiting to see it. I wanted to wait until last night because I wanted them to see it. I wanted my son, who's also very young. He's now he has seen it at an age where this will be his Superman now, that lives in his head rent free. And getting to be here, like all up in the environment in which that movie was shot, and getting to see like Jerry Siegel's desk upstairs and all the memorabilia, and we're going to see his home tomorrow. And
Yeah.
from the outside, if the family is here, like we're not going to bust in on you. I'm sure it's a busy week for you too, so leave you alone. But we'll be on the street. Just getting to have that experience with them here, just in the environment where all that kind of came to life, is just unbelievable.
It's been really fun just to walk between here and Tower City today and see so many of the sites. Also, shout out to Cleveland Public Works, because the city got pretty messed up. I don't know how you put it back together so quickly.
You'd never know it happened.
Yeah, it was incredible. So getting to watch it here in town with a lot of you last night, it was an insane experience, because it was such a huge applause and reaction, and everybody was so in love with seeing their beloved town. But not just because it was filmed here, but because of the legacy of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, and like you said, of course, too. And if you haven't already, please visit the library for so many pieces from them that are historic to this town. What do you think, Phillip, makes, besides the fact that he is the original superhero, that makes audiences fall in love with this guy so much?
I think we need to believe that it's okay to have. It's possible to have absolute power, or even seek absolute power, and use it with absolute compassion and humility. Like there's never been a time where we needed that more than now. And you have to believe that it's okay to be powerful. And a kind of a touchstone that I would always come back to when I was writing the book was that the only reason the powers should be there, the only reason the power should be on the page, is to illustrate how incorruptible he is. If he's just smacking around giant robots just because he can, there's the comic shop is full of characters that can do that. The difference needs to be that he uses his tremendous power to do visually amazing comic booky things, but then he'll take the time afterwards to help the bad guy up to their feet and like help them next, or open the back door of the car that he's just saved, and tug on the kid's car seat and make sure that they're buckled in and make them feel like a hero for wearing their seatbelt. Like it's, that seatbelt did more for you than anything I did. Just that extra little touch of humanity and kindness and compassion, that in real life, many of us would forget to do in that moment. Like he needs to show us the way. I guess that's the thing. Like I don't want, like there have been many different variations on Superman on screen and on the page in the past. And the ones that ring true are the ones in which, God, I mean, well, the Christopher Reeve version is like probably the truest for me, I guess, is still in my head where he's just, I don't want to judge Superman as a father. I don't want to, I don't want to see him making little mistakes that I think are, I don't know. I don't want somebody relatable. I want him to show me the way always. I want a Superman that shows me the way, that reminds us what we're capable of all the time. Like that was always kind of the point, is to show us the way, show us what we're capable of.
Just like in that, I mean, Marlon Brando in that original Superman movie, right? They only lack the light to show them the way. Like that's his
Right.
whole
Yeah,
Superman as this beacon of
yeah,
we can be.
that's my take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels like what something this movie does, and I think that your work on Superman has done a lot, is to sort of remind us to be hopeful, and that through Superman, through his actions and his presence, brings hope to others. And like that's something that all of us can do too, right? Like that's something that is, I think, the takeaway of this movie, and the takeaway of sort of the Man of Steel himself.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the new world that James Gunn has established with this new film is different than the one that I grew up with, but it's so good. Like the world feels more hopeful. Like there are still villains, and there's so clear who those bad guys are. But the world itself feels like the world is filled with people that want to do the right thing and that do the right thing. And like, I don't mean to sound cornball, but like, that's how I feel whenever I come back here. Like this library is like a temple. Like it's, and there's food trucks that are selling food apparently made by students, like for, like it's, like I walked past a sign to get here that said free books on, like, you people give away books for nothing on the streets out here. And like, it's like everything it just feels like we're in it, like we're in the Superman movie. Like this is a world where people believe that things can be better, and that's how the movie feels.
Absolutely. It's been outstanding to see the way that Cleveland has really rallied around Superman as a figure. It's been really inspiring these last few days to see the city come together like this.
Also, yeah, I love it here. It's an honor to be here.
You mentioned the villains. Is there a particular Superman villain you feel is like undervalued or underrated?
Underrated. Well, I got a chance to write a couple of villains like that. I've always felt that Mongol is kind of one dimensional, or has been in the past kind of one dimensional. Like there's so much potential there to do awesome things with Mongol. But I see some Mongol love back there. Excellent. But yeah, like he's been a part of some amazing stories. Like there's this classic Alan Moore story that uses Mongol, but he's a guy that kind of just wants to, burn everything down just because he's evil, and that's just because. And that's just not good enough. Like in my opinion, like the bad guys need to have a reason. Like every great bad guy thinks they're the good guy. And even in real life, nobody sets out to be the jerk. Like everyone thinks they're justified in what they're doing, or everyone that's doing this, even if people doing the most awful things, they think they have good reasons for it, or that they deserve it, or that they're trying to do something else beyond that, or whatever. So we did the Warworld saga. I tried to make Mongol much more interesting. I tried to show his backstory and how he became who he was. There's this one annual issue, like a double-sized issue I do with Cy Spurrier, where Cy wrote he wrote a story about Clark and his mother on Earth when he was very young. And Clark was starting to he was making a couple decisions that might have led him to using his powers in a more ordinary, expectant way that anyone would, like to kind of punish a bully. And then his mom made this little course correction to help him be exceptional. And meanwhile, on Warworld, we see Mongol making decisions that actually suggest he might have had a hint of mercy in him. Like, he might have actually been better than the average Warzun up there. And his mother made an adjustment in order to help him survive, made him actually much more ruthless than the average person. And it showed him how like this key moment kind of made them exceptional. And And I did a similar thing with Metallo when Superman came back to Earth. There was a Metallo story, and Metallo again is like a killer robot with kryptonite in his chest, and it's kind of a cool like visual. He's basically just like a Terminator, and the kryptonite makes him more of a Superman bad guy, and that's cool and all. But if you look at the old stories, he kind of doesn't really have any reason for doing what he's doing. It's not like a scientist like rescues him and makes him a weapon to use against Superman. There's not really explained why. So I kind of gave him a backstory and showed how he became who he is. And a fan came to me at a convention, kind of mad at me about that, and was like, "Man, why are you turning all these bad guys into good guys?" I was like, "Metallo's not a good guy, bro. He's killing tons of people. Like he's still a murderer. I'm trying to explain why, like how he became who he is." So those are bad guys that I felt like in the past have been kind of underserved, like used as like cool visuals that never really had a clear purpose. I don't want people to see Darkseid, Thanos, and Mongol be like, oh, they're all kind of the same thing. They should all have very clear differences. So when I was doing Warworld, I wanted to make it clear, like, okay, how are we going to set Mongol apart? If I know sometimes people get salty about the truth, justice, and the American way kind of tagline for what he represents, but the original tagline was champion of the oppressed. That's what he was in Action Comics #1, was champion of the oppressed. And if Superman is champion of the oppressed, then if Mongol is going to be his antithesis, then he would be an intergalactic slaver. And so he kind of built this whole cult of slavery and personality on Warworld, where like everyone up there wears a chain, and that kind of defines their value. And anyway, so that I tried to address. I tried to look around for one-dimensional things, and blow them out to more interesting tools to use.
You talk about that Warworld story, and it really like were you inspired at all by things like biblical epics, John Carter of Mars, those that sort of scale of thing? That's sort of what reading that, really brought me to that kind of a place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think the original ideas for Superman are very clearly based on ideas like the Moses story, and I mean, my God, they're so yeah. He's a child sent here in a basket, by otherworldly people who loved him to do great things. You know, anyway, just yeah, very clearly the Moses story. So I made that pretty clear in some places, and like his parents, like the House of El, like all the people from that other planet, all their names all end in L, the way that all angels typically do, and like the parallels are pretty clear. But yeah, as far as the War World stuff, I was a thing I would sometimes throw out to a cover artist occasionally was like Spartacus in space. Like we're liberating slaves on another planet in space, and the images are all very Pulp Fiction-y, very John Carter, Warlord of Mars, that kind of thing, as you say.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something you and I discussed last night that's important to us, and I think they had standout performances in the movie, and that's the Kents.
Yes.
Because Pruitt, Taylor Vince, and Neva Howell, if you've not seen the movie yet, give absolute wonderful performances as Ma and Pa Kent in this one. And if you've grown up with these films and different iterations, be it Smallville or anything, it's wonderful to see a Jonathan so beloved, and I think he did a great job. I think going back to, I know Glenn Ford is always kind of the archetype, Mount Rushmore, Jonathan Kent to me. But why do you think? Not even why do you think? Why, but I just kind of wanted to talk about how there's so many people, and I think it gets very cynical today, and they're like, oh wait, you don't need the Kents. That's when he was a kid, and they need to be dead for him to be Superman, and that's just not something I agree with at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not one that likes to throw shade on previous movies. And especially since I know there are tons of people out there for whom Man of Steel is their Superman movie, and I totally respect it.
Absolutely.
If there was a misstep, I thought it was the how Jonathan Kent is trying to prevent him from doing great things. Like it's like, no, don't show anyone who you are. Don't do anything out of the ordinary. Don't be found. And as a father, I understand that was all out of fear of him being found and taken. Like I totally get it. But if you do that, in those movies, like the everything that matters about Superman came from his Kryptonian family. Like he's still got the legacy of this whole planet that is now gone, and he now carries that sole responsibility. But he also his moral center is also from Jor-El, and to me, that's just a fundamental misstep. Like he learns how to be human. He learns how to show us the way. He learns how to be human from the Kents. That's his connection to us, and I thought that was the one missing piece that was hard to look past. And this just nails that. Like the Kents are not in the movie a lot, but when they're there, I love how ordinary they seem. Like they're not movie star. I mean, yes, they are movie stars, but they don't look like leading man, leading woman kind of roles. They look like people I grew up with, and Clark looks out of place there,
Yes. Yeah.
but man, I don't know, just hearing him talk like normal people do, but then seeing also that humanity and the way that they love him, and even while his mom is like struggling to using technology and all that, she's still like making it clear how much she loves her boy. And at the end, the stuff. Sorry, I'm spoiling stuff. Okay, I'll shut up. But there's the stuff at the end where it looks just like images I grew up with.
Absolutely. I was born in Mississippi, and I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, it's just a little different iteration this time around. More playing into the Commonwealth of it all, and the how they were portrayed. And it's like, no, I know, I can name you 40 people right now I can think of that are exactly like that. Like, it just seemed so true to form for me.
I'm sorry, who has not seen the movie yet? Okay, I'm gonna shut up. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to
Get out. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I'll keep it vague, but it's great. Anyway, look for the Kents. They're awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And also, just as important to me, and I love the way that you write her, is Lois.
Oh,
And of course, Rachel Brosnahan, phenomenal in the film. But there is no, to me, just as there is no Superman without the Kents, there is no Superman without Lois Lane.
yeah, it's the cool thing about, well, I mean, seeing the Superman legend kind of grow up over the years, that is seen most clearly, I think, in the way that Lois is treated. In the old days, she was kind of like she was kind of rude and mean to him all the time. And she was all into Superman. She's like, "Oh, the big jock, you're so awesome." And Clark Kent was like, "Oh, you're kind of lame," and not very flattering. And then also Clark Kent was gaslighting her constantly, and it was meant to be kind of cute and fun. But even as a kid, I was like, that's kind of lame. I don't know if I like her very much. I don't like the way he's treating her either. And it was just like one element of the story that I could have totally lived without. So when the decisions were made before my time about like revealing the secret identity, I didn't mind it as much. But these days, it's so different. Like Lois Lane now in the comics is just as powerful as Superman is in completely different ways. Like her tether to truth and justice is just as strong as his.
Absolutely.
And she uses it using the human tools with which she's been given. She's just has this relentless search for the truth and willingness to blow the lids off giant crazy stories to, hold truth to power. And yeah, I love that Superman is, he's a warrior because we've kind of forced him to be. Like he's always protecting us. He's always fighting because he's needed, but he chooses to be a writer, a journalist. That's what he chooses to be. He was raised by farmers, chooses to be a writer, and he fights when he must.
Yeah.
And Lois Lane is, again, a central part of that identity.
And journalism is such a huge part of the film, so that's a fantastic thing to see, that because she is the intrepid reporter, that she gets to play such a huge role in the movie and save the day as much as Superman does.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, she's the best. Yeah, and she kind of holds his feet to the fire in his most recent story in ways that make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
no spoilers there. See, like that.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Big.
It's I think it's one of the things that Lois can be for Superman is sort of another like guiding star, right? You're saying this all the time, right? How she's his guiding star in terms of ethics and resolve. We see that without getting into it to some degree in this movie. But I think it's really important that Superman is not not invulnerable in all ways, right? He's always vulnerable emotionally. There's always a way in which Superman is vulnerable, and I think Lois keeps him very tethered and connected to his human side. No,
Yeah.
much the same way the Kents do.
Well, I mean, I feel like she helps him, she helps make his mission clear very often, like what he needs to do and like what yeah. I just think he has a very flattering example of humanity in Lois Lane.
Hmm.
He gained his humanity from his parents, but he has a very different version of that through Lois, and she's the best. I when he was on War World, it was important to me that he have a journal up there. Like makes sense that he would kind of try to hold it together as being a writer still. And also I've during my run he published pieces about like while Lois was publishing pieces exposing corporate fraud and political misdoings and like giant pieces that really matter and just chasing every lead and getting every source to spill it and like really making huge moves. Superman prefers to, well, he does those things too, but the kind of thing he really likes to do is he publishes a piece telling us about a homeless man who died, and how he holds him in the highest regard and how we should all strive to be like this man. A man that literally didn't have a pot to piss in, that most of us would walk by in the street and not pay any attention to. Superman knew all about him and knew about his life and how he came to be there and think great things he had done leading up to that moment. And how Superman sees the smallest of us and loves and respects us in a way that we should for each other. So yeah, anyway.
Superman is really great about making the ordinary extraordinary, right? It is the ordinariness of the Kents that makes them so extraordinary. And it is when the whole world is cynical, it's doing the right thing because it's the right thing that is, punk rock, to borrow a phrase.
Yeah, right. There's a great moment in the all right, I'm gonna spoil something. He saves a squirrel. And I thought it was awesome.
I want to ask because I love anytime I'm getting to talk to anybody who has written for the character, when you are putting pen to paper and getting to write for this iconic, I mean, 90 years nearly, 9 decades, and so many people before you, and he'll be here long after we're gone. But what voice do you hear in your head when you're writing for this character? Is like Bud Collyer, Christopher Reeve? Everybody has their own.
Like speaking voice?
Yeah.
I don't hear a speaking voice.
You don't.
I hear John Williams' music.
Good answer. Amen. Good answer.
Yeah, that's just the truth. Like I know that when I'm getting the dialogue right, I hear John Williams' music in it. That might sound corny, but that's it. I don't hear like a specific actor that has spoken in the past. I'm not sure. I don't know. I speak my stuff. I will speak my dialogue aloud, not just from him. Anyway, whenever I'm reading, I try to read it aloud because it just makes you write better. So I guess the true answer is like a more Superman-y version of myself, as opposed to the feminized version of Lois Lane, which is also my voice. I don't know. I'm here. I do all the acting myself in in my office with the door closed. But yeah, it's not so much the speaking voice. It's about, does this sound like John Williams makes me feel,
Well, that was a huge aspect of the film, and then, again, not spoilers, but I mean, using that Williams march, weaving it in and out of the new score that John Murphy and David Fleming provided. I mean, that is Superman's music. I mean,
Yeah.
in the way that the 007, also in your wheelhouse, the James Bond theme is not just Sean Connery or Pierce Brosnan's Bond theme. It's James Bond's theme.
Yeah, totally. Brad Bird, the director of Incredibles, had this great line where he says, music is, let's see, how did he say it? Music is so unspecific, but emotionally it is completely specific. Like it needs to make you feel a certain thing, a certain way. And John Williams' music just is that thing for Superman, so when I'm getting it right, I try to find these these touchstone moments where Superman has a chance to say something very, very brief and powerful, like something real that just very short that makes us all just feel that thing. God, what's a moment like that? Well, okay, so in Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Superman for All Seasons,
Yes.
he's home.
Yes.
Great book, right? He flies home for dinner with his family around the time, and they're sitting at the same old kitchen table that they've always sat at. And he's looking at his dog that's kind of getting old. Does anyone remember the dog's name in that book? Shelby. That's it.
Shelby.
This guy
Yeah.
totally got it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Good pull.
You're getting a book. He looks at his dog and he's like, oh, Shelby's really getting older, huh? And he's like, just that love and like just compassion for him. And in my own book, he's fighting Mongol in the arena, and this whole world of people has been like kind of brainwashed. Like to them, Mongol is Superman because he is strongest. Okay, and they all wear a chain. Like for everyone they kill in that world, for every victory, they get a link added to their chain, and through that, their reach grows, and they're trusted with more weight to carry. And after they've been stripped of everything else in their life, they have this chain. And once they've killed a ton of people, the chain wraps around their forearms, and they look really badass and powerful, and they feel powerful. With their chain feels empowering to them. Everyone in this arena is chained, and they're all proud of that. And they envy longer chains than their own. And they're watching Mongol fight Superman, who has been depowered, and they're fighting. And Mongol's like, listen to them chanting my name. Like, they're chanting for me to kill you. You came here to save them, and they're chanting for me to kill you. He's like, these people don't want your help. They didn't ask for your help. And then Superman scores this great hit on him, and Mongol goes down to one knee, and he says, one of them did. And that is the kind of like where he's like, I crossed galaxies to fight people who hate me, to save people who hate me. Because one slave came to me for help. Like, that's what I mean. Or like, again, later, somebody's like, they're all, do you hear them out there? What did you think would just happened? Like somebody's trying to free Superman from Warworld. He refuses to leave. He said, do you think we won back there? Like, so-and-so's dead. Like, they hate us. They hate you. They're chanting for you to be dead. And he says, what should we do then? Abandon the ones who don't cheer for us? Is that what our heroes taught us?
Yeah.
So anyway, that kind of stuff. That's the thing I hear John Williams' music and that sentiment. Where it's not about them. It's about the squirrel. It's about the one little slave who begged for help while millions of others don't want it. So yeah.
When you are, hearing your own a more Superman version of your own voice and whatnot, are you drawing from real life experiences and people and real life dynamics and situations between people? Like how much of your own experience goes into it, and how much of it is purely imagination?
It's a combination, but I do draw from life. I wrote a book called The One Who Fell, which is, on its face, just a love letter to my son who's here. Yeah, he's a good boy. Drawn comics like a good boy. Yeah, the way that Superman talks about his own son is how I feel about my own son. And sometimes I'll find moments, in other literature that make me feel a certain kind of way. I try to capture that in his writing. Or there's actually in my, in the first issue of Adventures of Superman, Book of L, that's about to come out. That comes out. I'm doing a new 12-issue Superman series called Adventures of Superman, Book of L. That comes out in September. And in the first issue, there's actually a line that I heard my brother speak at my niece's wedding. And he was talking about how he grew up. Like when he was raising his daughter, he just obsessed about every little thing, about every little detail of her upbringing to make sure she grew up a certain kind of way. And he was like really particular about who she hung out with and whether she's doing her homework and blah, blah, blah. And there came a point where he realized she was turning out so beautifully. He's like, I didn't need to do any of this stuff. Like he said, at that wedding, he said, flowers just know how to grow. And I love that moment. It was just really it just made sense too. So there's a moment where Superman says that to one of his kids and, in that first issue. So yeah, there are things I try to capture from my own life or from people that I know. And the Warworld saga is about human trafficking on its face. Is like a lot of the stuff in that series came from my own experiences fighting human trafficking in Baltimore. And, yeah, even if you don't set out to tell stories about your own life, you do.
One way or another, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about when you are working in I imagine you find yourself working across a team of folks who are working on Superman stories, right? And how does that come into play when you're collaborating with others, and trying to tell a consistent, big sprawling story, and you're working with others, and you're each bringing your own life experiences into it.
Well, when you write a script for an art team, you are actually Bendis did this really beautifully. There was, and I came onto so I inherited the Superman and Action comic series from Brian.
Yep.
And so I was caught up on most of the issues anyway, but there was a couple I hadn't seen yet that were not out, and there was a script that had not yet been illustrated, and so I got to read those. And that script that I read was to an artist that he had not yet worked with, and it said in there, feel free to change whatever you need to here. Remember, I'm telling you a story so that you can tell a story. And I found it to be very apt. That's when you're writing a script, like when you write a screenplay, it's meant to be read by a ton of people. Everyone involved in that movie in some way is going to be involved with that screenplay. In comics, it's a much smaller team. So it's just you, artist, colorist, letterer, editor, like post-production, maybe a couple other people. For the most part, you're writing a letter to the artist, to the line artist for the most part. And so it can be much more, it's more Wild Westy as far as like format. And I just I tell them if I'm trying to capture a moment, like a feeling from a movie, or if the scene is like a scene from a book that I read, or if there's a specific panel that's meant to evoke a moment from another panel from an earlier, like there's a moment at the very end of World Saga that's very much like a Tom Grummett page that I like when Superman return at the end of like Return of Superman or whatever, when he's finally like all the way back. This meant to feel kind of like that, so I made that clear on the page.
That sort of triumphant return.
Yeah, well, they're just like we're flying and kissing in the sky, and it's like we're back and we're together and everything. We made it, and everything's okay.
I know for me, when you do get that art back for the first time and you're seeing it, you're like a kid in a candy store.
Yes,
Every time, because it's like, I mean, obviously your words on getting to see them in action, but just seeing how they interpreted it and
yeah,
everything like
it's
that.
pretty awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I really love the collaborative nature of comics. It's just really addictive.
What's been your favorite that has gone to print that you cooked up in your head, but once the art hit the page on the panel, what's been your absolute favorite splash? Or yeah,
Um,
hard call, but
well, I'll read it to you. It's a 2-page thing
gather around.
that I wrote for my son. There's where so Superman and John are flying. That's in The One Who Fell, where Superman and his son John, who's basically an adult now, um, are flying through space on their way to this adventure. Like somebody has called for help, and only Superman can hear, and they're flying out there to. So when they're in space, there's no sound out there. And I know, of course, we all have comics where people are talking and they're hearing sound effects in space, but that's not how I do it. When you're in space, there's no sound, and that's how it is. So when Superman and John are flying, they can't talk, and Superman kind of hangs back and just watches John fly. And when I got that art back, it just captured it so beautifully. Let's see, pull it up. So now that spread is now my Facebook like wallpaper or whatever they call it. So it shows them flying. If you look me up on Facebook, you can see this page. It's like a 2-page spread, a bunch of panels that shows Superman and John flying, and he's just watching him, thinking about how awesome his son is, which I think all the time. And then there are these flashback images watching him grow up, and that's what is on the page while this is being read. So Superman says, "The vacuum of space is where I hear my thoughts the clearest. Since we couldn't speak, I'd hang back a bit and just watched you fly. And then you were running through the tall grass again, chasing butterflies and barn swallows, pretending you were one of them. Back then, I'd come home every day to a bright-eyed little boy who ran up to me and bear-hugged me around the middle. You tell me all about a story you'd read, or pull me outside to teach me a game you'd made up. Then one day you had an adventure of your own, and then another. You grew up faster than we expected or wanted for you. Now my little barn swallow is soaring through the Andromeda galaxy, your cells igniting with the power of a supernova. You are a miracle, Jonathan Kent. You'll do things I never could. But I'll always miss reading to you as you fall asleep, feeling your little chest rise and fall as I brush the hair out of your eyes, imagining how amazing your life will be."
Let's have some applause for that. Come on, folks.
I'm gonna need a minute.
Yeah, that's
When I got those 2 pages back, there's these amazing images of John flying and looking awesome, and then seeing him as a little boy with a Superman cape flying through tall grass, like, just, like, running through tall grass, and then hugging his dad, and then his mom watching in the doorway as, he falls asleep on his arms on his dad's arm, and, it's just the best, man.
I love how fans have embraced John, but I've also even more than that, I love seeing Clark Clark's full humanity on display as a father and the lessons he's learned from Jonathan, from his own father,
Yeah,
and
totally.
and getting to, push that forward,
No.
and
Man, seeing Superman as a dad just feels good, man. I don't know, it just makes sense. That's like the dad I wanna be, you know?
yes, absolutely. Superman and Lois that just ended, it did a phenomenal job of seeing, Tyler Hoechlin playing that role as a father to twin boys and the
Yeah,
ins and outs
he
of.
was great. I admit in the first season, there were moments where I'm like, "Man, don't do this." Like, you'd see him, like, he and Lois come home from work, like, tired and, like, they get wine drunk or it's like one of them gets powers, the other one doesn't, so he shows that kid the fortress and not the other. I'm like, "This is so lame." Like, I don't wanna judge Superman as a father, but he so totally straightened it out, and it got better and better, and it was really fun to see Superman as the dad that you want to see, you know?
mm,
It's just the best.
he really is. He really is the dad you want to see, and he really is that. He's very grounded, and I think one of the things that you get to do telling a Superman story is you get to mix the groundedness, like what you were just talking about, with your own family, and the groundedness with the fantastical, right? You get to bring those things together where you're telling a very grounded story, relatable story, just happens to be on Warworld.
Yeah, Grant Morrison talks about that. He talks about how, like, people talk about Superman's too powerful, it's impossible to tell good stories with him. I just never understood that take at all. I don't find Superman hard to write at all. Grant never did either. Grant talked about how, like, you know, you're it's still a story about the in-laws visiting and you're walking your dog. Like, when you walk your dog in Superman's life, it's you're walking him around the solar system, and the in-laws that coming are from another planet or another time stream or whatever, but it's still about a story about your in-laws visiting. That's how Grant described it. Like, it's just find ways to make it feel like the world you recognize, but also just about these larger than life, immortal, indomitable people, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm, mhm. Speaking of larger than life, we of course mentioned now being around since 1938. He's been here long before any of us were here. He's going to be here after any of us are gone. What do you hope for the next 90 years means for the Man of Steel?
Oh man. Um, Gosh, that's a good question. When somebody's around as long as Superman has been, you do like comics are very often about the illusion of change, like where you see these big changes, like, oh my God, Batman's back is broken, he's out forever, and that's not how it works, right? Like, so Batman's back gets broken, or Joker gets killed, or Lex Luthor's dead, or Superman's dead, or whatever
Path of
happens.
Superman, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all make believe. Like, it all comes back, and it all comes back to the status quo. But when somebody has had such a long trajectory as Superman, there are little changes that eventually happen. The same with like Spider-Man's not as old as Superman, but with Batman and Spider-Man, there are also some gentle versions of that too. Like we're out of the gaslighting Lois era, and then eventually she found out the secret identity, and then they got married. Now they have children, and there are slow changes happening. Um, I do wonder how far that's gonna go before they feel tempted to undo it all. Like, at some point, it's like, "Okay, now Superman's your grandkids are coming," and, they're not gonna let us have stories of, like, Grandpa Kent, or if they do, they'll have to exist alongside, you know young power fantasy Superman. What do I wanna see from Superman? I mean, I think that, we're kind of often encouraged not to make up new toys for the toy box. We're told to kinda stick to the toys that are already there, and I get that this advice is coming from, like, editors in chief and publishers and people who've been doing it their whole lives, and they know what they're talking about. Still resent that advice a little bit. I still feel like there's room for more iconic villains that will make their way to the screen, that will be as big and powerful and iconic as Lex Luthor and Mongol and all the, Darkseid and all the big ones, you know? So yeah, I guess what I hope is that new incoming writers and artists find way to add way more toys to the toy box, and not just villains for the established heroes, but for new heroes as well. As our cultures change, as we have like as new subcultures change and arise, you know, all those people are going to want to see themselves on the page. So I want to see more kinds of heroes emerge over the years, and for some of those to stick and just really build out the pantheon in lasting ways.
Speaking of, utilizing what's already there, and I was so glad to see last night how well utilized, and I would love it if it had been even more utilized, the Daily Planet team, getting to watch them interact, because I love a Perry, I love a Jimmy, I love all that banter back and forth, and just seeing of course, the leader building being your Daily Planet is historic, I know for you, but to get to watch them all interact in the bullpen is always something that I enjoy.
That's a great point. Like the Daily Planet team was super well done. I love all those characters. I love seeing there's some like slightly different takes on some of them, and they all worked beautifully. I thought it was awesome. I think Mr. Terrific kind of stole the show. I love to see
Right.
more of that. I think just yeah,
Yeah.
nice and vague, but he's great. Guy Gardner's great. It was so cool to see those iconic characters like getting more screen time. You know, it's not just about, you know, Clark and Bruce and all like Diana, all the core teams. Like we're acknowledging that there are more people out there, and some of them are really awesome, even if you don't know their names.
Yeah. I know I said this last night, but it's so, you're so tempted because we've seen it so many times before to want to tell an origin story because you want to do leave your own mark on the putting the baby in the ship and having him land in
Right.
Smallville and how the Kents find him and everything.
That's the
And
template, right?
yeah, that's what you're so accustomed to. And, with superhero movies since the genre started, post 9/11 and everything, that it's gotten to be such a big deal. It's this constant barrage of, well, what if these heroes dropped into our world? And in this film, it's really much, I mean, weird dropped into theirs. We're getting a look at something we've never really gotten a look at before on screen.
Yeah, I was kind of asking myself last night, like, why does this movie feel so good? And in the end, what I kind of walked away with was we've been getting all these really, admittedly, excellent stories, kind of um, deconstructing the superhero myth. And some have been around a long time. Watchmen's been around since the 80s. Watchmen is an amazing book that you should totally read. A movie came out years ago that was extremely like close to that book. It's great, but the book is amazing. Now there's The Boys, there's Irredeemable, there's all these different things like that kind of what if superheroes were real and it was like dark and gritty or whatever. And it's kind of taken it apart and made it all less beautiful. Like there are telling stories that in some cases are very important that I think should be told. The Boys is telling a story that I think should be there. Um, but I don't know, going back to like again, like in this particularly dark time, going back to a place where it's possible to have great power and not be corrupted. You know, to wield great power with great compassion and humility. We just need that. And it was so, to go back to that sense just felt so awesome.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not the Christopher Reeve version of Superman that lives in my head, but instead of Superman being the singular thing that inspired me, I felt inspired by the whole like the world that they gave us. You know, like that whole world that they built in that movie that hopefully will continue. Just felt really great.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it really does give you that sense of, again, no spoilers, but something that, in Superman the movie, we don't even, Christopher Reeve doesn't even show up till an hour into it. It's an hour in before he flies out of the fortress. And within 30 seconds
Yeah.
of the movie last night, you've got the whole story
Yeah, right.
from start to finish, or start to catching you up to now of where we are in this world. And it's fun to get dropped into it, just like Superman gets dropped into it
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's beautifully done.
So you are, as you mentioned, you're returning with Adventures of Superman, the Book of L. Um, can you tell us a little bit about what we have to look forward to there? What are the sort of themes or directions that you can tell us about coming in that story?
Sure. Well, so I was acting comics for about 3 years, and during that time, we did the War World Saga and some other stories set on Earth afterwards, and there are a lot of little threads that remain. We introduce a villain on Warworld that, again, like, who believes he's the good guy, and through a certain lens is the good guy. But he is searching for this thing, and we established this mythology that ties into Jack Kirby's New Gods. It ties into Superman's mythology, but also everything Kirby ever did at DC. And there are big questions left to be answered. We tied into some of that in my Green Lantern War Journal book, but there's a lot left to do. And so I asked if we could do a 12-issue Superman series that basically concludes everything I had set up in my Action Comics run and Superman and Green Lantern. There's a lot of world building and lore. So there's actually in the world I'm establishing, there is a physical book called the Book of El that tells Superman's story, that tells the lineage of Superman after he leaves Earth. It tells about what happened with his family, what happens when he returns. There's just a lot of questions to ask. It's kind of like my Superman New Testament. It's kind of it finishes off my mission statement on the character, everything I think Superman is and should be. We're going to see a team up with him and the House of El, like far in the future that we established in the future state. We're going to see the God aspects of Aldrin come together.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, if you enjoy my Warworld saga, this is the continuation and conclusion.
All
Be
right.
watching for that this September. Speaking of War Saga, you had a presentation you wanted to.
Yeah, are we finishing up here?
I think we're winding down, aren't we?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
This is my favorite library in the world, straight up.
Again, give it up, Cleveland Public Library.
And my Superman work is being collected into 2 omnibuses, so 2 gigantic tomes, and one of them is coming out in about a week and a half, I think. So this book is not yet available for purchase, but the first copy is going to live at the Cleveland Public Library here.
How great is that, folks?
So come check it out. I can't thank this library enough. Like, man, thanks so much for having me back. And it's a huge honor to be here and to talk with these guys, talk to you, get to know you, and just thanks for everything.
Oh,
Enjoy the book.
it's an absolute honor to have you here. Thank you so much. You gentlemen were awesome conversation. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Don Boozer. I am the manager of the literature department and the coordinator of the House Center for the Book up there in the second floor of Main Library. And I get to be the custodian of all things Superman, which is like one of my great joys in my life. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to adding this to the collection. And thank you, gentlemen, very much. And
We have time for 2 questions.
we have time for 2 questions, I'm being told. Oh, look at his 2 hands of shut up there.
That one and that one.
I'm really honored to be in your presence. You're one of like the greatest Superman writers. I mean, I love Supes, so you do him so much justice.
Super kind of you to say. Thanks.
And my question just is like, what keeps you going with the love for this character? A lot of people fall out of love with the comic characters that they write sometimes, and they oftentimes sort of insert their own ideas that they have on the character, so it's a twist or a deconstruction. And oftentimes in mainline comics, like Action Comics, that you did wonderful, by the way. It's my favorite run after Grant Morrison. It's like
No, man.
right
Thanks
next
so
to each
much.
other. How do you keep sight of the character when sometimes you have other people in your ear telling you, oh no, this is how the character is, or oh no, you don't understand the character? Like, you understand the character and you are able to basically keep your devotion to him and writing him like spot on. Like, it's just impressive, and I gotta know how you do it.
And thank you very much for that super humbling, kind question. How do I stay? So those couldn't hear. How do you stay devoted to the character and keep that version clear? I just don't find it hard to do that. I don't know. It's not really a struggle. But if I'm going to tweak that question a little bit to another one that I've heard in the past, and sometimes people will ask, who do you read to find Superman's voice? And and they assume that I'm going to give them the names of Superman stories. And I mean, those stories do matter. Like, okay, Grant Morrison All-Star, Superman for All Seasons, Mark Waid's Birthright, moments of Kingdom Come, without the whole gulag thing. But honestly, the things that I read to find Superman's voice are like Pulitzer Prize winning, socially conscious journalism,
Yes.
because he's a journalist, right?
Yes.
So I would try to remember that he published a piece about a homeless man who died and how beautiful of a person that he was. And I would try to like find pieces written by writers like that. Or I'll also read, or listen to great speeches by the great orators, like the people who just like you walk away just feeling like uplifted and changed, um, like specific. And sometimes those speeches can be kind of like dated, something like FDR or MLK or God, what's another one? Some of the stuff that Kennedy said.
Yeah.
Um, but mostly like socially conscious journalism, that like really top end stuff that just makes you like perceive the world differently and want to be better. And just reminding myself that those people are real and that those people exist just kind of kind of waters the garden, if that makes sense. But also like going back and like watching Christopher Reeve in the role and listening to John, but even more than his portrayal is the music, like trying to find words, trying to find words that make me feel the way John Williams' music does, if that makes sense. My honor. Thank you. Again, a book too.
Hi. So I'm really happy that you brought up the Barn Swallow thing because I actually just read that last week and phenomenal.
So much.
My favorite part is kind of the end of that where he says, "You are still my little barn swallow." So my question is, how has being a father affected your style of writing with Superman, and how has Superman being a father affected your parenting?
Damn, dude. Yeah. How has being a father affected my Superman writing? Well, I mean, the clearest way that being a father has shaped my Superman writing is because Superman is himself a father in the books. And so it gives me a perspective that is just too easy to understand. Like sometimes when you think about somebody like Superman, it's hard to perceive of somebody who loves all of us and everybody and who like who like Metallo is trying to kill his entire family, trying to kill his young children. And so Superman powers up, uses a power that we have never seen him use before because he's never needed it. He shows us a new level to his power abilities, and he blasts through Metallo. And then when his limbs are off and his kids are safe, he's like, okay, let's get you on your feet. Let's go help you get your sister back. Because he's doing this whole thing. Metallo is trying to get his sister back from somebody else. He's like, I'm gonna. He's like, I was gonna kill your children. I know you're gonna help me. He's like, yeah, anybody would. And he's like, I wouldn't. And he said, well, not yet, maybe, but someday. Like he still sees the best in Metallo after he tried to kill his little kids. I want to be like that. So I mean, it's hard to perceive of somebody who loves everyone that much, even the people trying to murder his children, or who would like put himself through intense physical strain and pain to save a squirrel, which most of us get. I got squirrels under my car, it's super annoying. But like I should still save that squirrel when it's in trouble. It's a reminder that like who we're all supposed to be. So giving him a child of his own kind of helps in my opinion, it helps us understand like how it's possible to love somebody so much, if that makes sense. Like that's a version of Superman's love that makes sense to us, I think. Or like a parent or a sibling or whoever that person is. So yeah, it's like having like a jewel in my life that kind of represents that idea, is what a kid is. Um, and then okay. And yeah, writing Superman has, I think, made me a better dad because sometimes I'm kind of reminded that Superman matters to people. And sometimes if some troll says something super lame online and I've got like just the best shot that I could take. I was like, I would love to light this guy up right now. I was like, that is a very un-Superman like thing to do. So I'm gonna stay in my hand and not let anybody down. I'm not gonna say I've never let anyone down that way, but I'm doing my best not to let down my Superman readers by stooping to the level of the toxic people that are around. And there's a version of that as a father too. Like this is kind of this WWSD thing that kind of lives in my head. Like, what do I do here? Like what would Superman do in my shoes? So yeah, just having him in my head as you write him, and I think Brian has said that too. I just saw Brian come in. he said something like having Superman live in your head is by far the best part of writing Superman, and that's totally true. And having them in my head as I'm writing him is, and even in between writing sessions, just helps me be a better person. Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic question. Please give it up for Phillip. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Thank each and every one of you for coming. Stay tuned, and thank you for Cleveland Public Library for having all three of us and everybody today. Events happening into the night, and up next is Mr. Brian Michael Bendis. So stay tuned.
Thanks so much to House of L. Thanks to the library. Thanks to you guys for coming.